Want food? Food.
It's very hot up here. I'm roasted.
The lovable little rapscallion that everyone knows and loves. The little cute dog who saved an entire family from kidnappers who are going to kill lots of children. 1974's Benji.
God damn, talk about a blast from the past. Another movie I loved in my youth, but I have not watched since I was like 8 years old. Instead of thinking about our pasts, why don't we think about our futures?
All right, so what did we watch?
We watched a Bong Joon-ho film, perhaps his first film, if I had to guess.
Yes.
And god damn it, I've never seen a Korean indie film quite like this.
Yeah, I enjoyed the film. I'll be honest, I did. It's a really weird movie.
Yes.
I didn't completely love it. I definitely do have problems with it, which do stem from kind of a first filmmaker movie, kind of working out the kinks. Also him just learning how to write a screenplay. From the get-go, you can tell like this guy's talented just based on the camera work in the beginning of the movie.
I'll grant you that. The camera work was impeccable. There were quite a few. I'll give you a couple examples that come to the top of my mind right now. When the main character is in the basement hiding from the janitor, a light bulb goes out, there's shadow covering his face as he's telling a spooky story. That was good.
Yeah. I mean, even in the beginning of the movie with just the wide shots of the apartment building and
yeah,
certain characters moving and just, the zoom ins with the cameras and just the tilting of everything. I really liked the way it was shot.
Do you remember when he's in the bathroom with his friend who's trying to get him to bribe somebody? I love that sort of, I don't know exactly the technique they use, but it's sort of the background continues to become unfocused and it sort of gives the illusion that the characters are moving, but they're still just standing there. I like that.
Yeah, I don't know what that camera technique is either, but that is something that sticks out big time. You're like, oh wow, really cool shot.
Other than that, I wanted to shove my face into a meat grinder for the entirety of this movie.
Wow.
The entire
really?
time. What the fuck? Why? Are these two lesbians or what?
So you want to give your thoughts on the film? Is that it?
It was like, I've never seen an Asian movie be so American indie. We have essentially three stories going on. One, which is hilarious, but I grew very tired of. And two, that I just didn't care.
Well, I mean, before we get into everything, I will say that I do want to issue a trigger warning for people. The movie does start with a title card that says no animals were harmed in the making of this movie. And I just let people know right away, if you have a problem with animals in peril and or dying, there's a whole website dedicated to Does the Dog Die? Even if you like this director, I think it's going to be difficult for, a few people to sit through. Just
and to those people, I say, stop being little coños. It's a movie.
Well, there's a lot of people who have, like I say, there's a whole website dedicated to it. So there's a lot of triggered people out there.
There was never a question in my mind of, oh, did they really kill that dog or not? I didn't think they did. There's a reason why the first scene with a dog when he's in the basement is completely cloaked in shadow. It's to hide that they got a harness or whatever around it.
Right, yeah, but still, I could see a lot of people...
I can understand people getting upset by it. I used to be like this in my youth. Like, I'd get upset if I saw a dead dog on a movie. Halloween, #1 offender.
Well, my entire youth was seeing animals die in movies, so I've gotten pretty used to it as far as the cinematic manipulation.
What, are you a zoophile?
Oh, you never watched My Dog Skip as a kid?
Spoilers. I owned it.
That pretty much beats it all out of you in your youth. Also, if you ever look up the behind the scenes of Milo and Otis, so don't ever do that.
What is Milo and Otis? Before we
Milo
peel this onion.
It's an adventure movie with like a pug and a cat.
Okay.
And if you look up the behind the scenes on that movie, it's truly the stuff of nightmares. So.
Well, shit, man, they're raping kids in Hollywood. Why the fuck would they give a shit about a dog or a cat?
At least 6 men accuse the film's director, Bryan Singer, of sexual misconduct spanning 2 decades, all of them underage at the time. Singer categorically denies all of the allegations and calls the article a homophobic smear piece.
Yeah, it's just below the rape. So clearly, you did not like the movie.
I immediately had to dock points because, well, it's not this movie's fault. It reminded me of the god-awful Summer of Sam.
How did you get in here? Leave me alone! What do you want?
I want you to go out and kill. Kill! Kill! Kill!
Move this man!
Really? Wow. What a pull.
Well, the dog barking, him getting, let's just say, psychotic about it. One more thing I have to say. Spike Lee is a goddamn race-baiting jerk-off, talentless hack. And that's the end of my rants for today.
All right. So let's get back into that.
I don't think we said the name of the movie yet, did we?
Probably not.
The name of the film was Barking Dogs Don't Bite. Excuse us for our grievous error.
Barking dogs never bite.
Jesus Christ. I'm so angry I can't even read my own handwriting.
Jesus. Did you hit the pipe beforehand to mellow out or what?
I'll never tell.
Okay. Oh, Jesus. I was like,
Here's my plot synopsis for this movie. Why is this happening? Who is Boiler Kim? Why is there a Korean pop star crank call? The shop girl and her friend, lesbians or no? Counting the meters. Why am I seeing this?
wow, you really, are you going to go into a full-blown mank rant like I did, huh?
We get it. Your wife is a bitch.
Well, actually, that's actually kind of subverted, but we'll get into that, into spoilers. We start off with our protagonist, and I think it's a really interesting way to start the film where he's having a phone call about being a professor, and there's a dog barking. Immediately, he's just leaving his apartment, looking for this dog, finds a dog, he grabs it, goes up to the top of the roof, and is right about to throw a dog off the roof. So that just kind
This is one of the triggering scenes because even I don't really care, and I took note. The dog is shaking violently as is being held over the precipice.
Oh yeah, it's definitely an unsettling scene. First, I was like starting to laugh, and then I was like, oh Jesus, like just your
It kind of
natural.
plays with your sensibilities. At first, you're like, okay, this is a dark comedy. This is supposed to be funny, but it keeps going, and you're like, oh shit, he's really holding this dog over like a 100-story building.
Yeah, it definitely it unsettles you, and that's the whole purpose of dark comedy. It's to play with disturbing things, just to play with the emotions of the audience. And there's a lot of people who don't like that, and this movie was a huge flop when it came out. So I think a lot of people.
Score one, Rudy.
Ah, yes, all of the movies that were misunderstood when they came out are not good.
I'm not misunderstanding it now, and I'm saying it's not good.
Right.
Score two, Rudy.
She's heating up.
That's a really interesting way to start the movie off because you have absolutely zero sympathy for the protagonist. Over time, maybe some people won't change their opinion on the lead. I did.
Yeah, I did as well.
And I thought that is a testament to his talent as a filmmaker, even though this movie does have problems. I'm not going to ignore the problems of it.
Score three, Rudy.
He's about to throw a dog off the roof. An old woman who is also one of our characters notices him, and so he pulls the dog away from the roof. And then we have, to me, the most disturbing scene of the movie, which is him trying to hang the dog. When I saw the scene, I was like, okay, what do they have? Like some puppet or anything? I'm like, okay, no, this is definitely a real dog. But they just have, like you said, they have a harness, the same way they use harnesses for people who they're attempting to hang in movies to make it, look like they're hanging. But it is a really disturbing scene where I was like, oh, God. So I definitely was not laughing. this.
So he doesn't have the stomach to kill a dog, well, painfully, very short and quick. So instead
Right.
he decides to lock it into like an armoire and let it starve to death slowly.
Right? Yeah, because he can just kind of forget that, just walk away.
Telltale Heart kind of gave me feelings about that.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's also another scene in the movie that kind of
That
definitely
too.
echoes another Edgar Allan Poe short story. So it's interesting because we have two protagonists. We have him, and then we have this girl who works at this kind of. She works in some office, and she's dealing with like letters and stamping things.
Yeah. Clerical.
And she has her best friend, or as you said, quite possibly maybe lover, works at this convenience store. And basically, she wants more out of life. She kind of wants to be a detective in some ways. And so at first, you don't really know that she is a protagonist. You're just kind of, okay, she's a side character. But then as things slowly change in the movie, she becomes much more integral to the plot. I did like her. How did you
I liked her, but I never got the sense she wanted to be detected. I got the sense she just wanted fame.
Yeah, I mean, she definitely did want fame, but even at the beginning, she says something early on about wanting to investigate and being kind of envious of that type of thing.
I can't recall exactly, but I'll have to take your word for it because
Yeah.
virtually the entirety of the movie, I just was like, why? Please stop.
Oh my God.
Oh, also one more thing real quick. I'd say there are three protagonists. Those two and the janitor who
Stole
only
it,
wants
dick.
one thing, to eat dogs. That was the best part of the movie for me. It just the little
Totally woke.
part of my brain where it's like there's just a Korean man who has one desire, and that is to eat dogs. And everything stops him.
Yeah, I was gonna get to that in spoilers, but all right. How did you feel about the score?
It reminded me of sort of the early to mid '90s kind of. It really made me think of The Firm. Do you remember that movie?
Yeah, I didn't get that personally.
Just early '90s kind of thrillers.
I didn't get that at all. I got a jazzy elevator music score.
Yeah, that's what it was, but that's what it made me think of.
I really enjoyed the score. I thought it was nice, and it definitely lends the movie to being more of a comedy.
Yeah, I'd give you that.
I think if you didn't have a score like that, maybe people watching this, they'd take it a little more seriously.
For sure.
This little dog that he takes, like you said, he puts it in an armoire, and then we find out that it belongs to this, little cute first grader. This is where I thought, okay, this little girl is going to be integral to the plot.
No.
And that's kind of my biggest problem with the movie, is that it sets up certain things which you think are going to be paid off, and it doesn't really pay those off. They're almost like red herrings, I guess you would maybe. So I will say that while I did enjoy the movie, I won't watch it again. It definitely has flaws, which we'll really get into in spoilers. My biggest problem is I wish it was zanier. I wish it was weirder.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They played everything a little too straight.
Yeah, I think that when there's certain moments in the movie where you're like, oh, okay, this movie's really going to get crazy, it ultimately doesn't. So I wish it was zanier. I wish it was a little shorter. There's a couple scenes that after seeing the movie, I go, okay, well, those were kind of pointless. You could have cut those out.
It might have to do with sort of Asian or more specifically Korean sensibilities. Like you, for at least 2 or 3 scenes, I'm like, what does this have to do with anything?
Well, that's why I thought, I'm like, okay, well, clearly there's going to have payoff. But there isn't. I mean, Asian cinema in general, movies tend to be quite long. So I was kind of prepared for that. Most of them tend to be 2 hours and 20 plus minutes. That's just kind of what Asian films tend to be. But this is 10 minutes shy of 2 hours. It's not too bad to me.
No, cut a fine pace.
Yeah. The last thing I would say, kind of spoilers, is that I'm not in love with the ending of this movie. We'll get into it in spoilers, but it's not, to me, a terribly satisfying ending, and it does harken back to not a 70s movie, but it has kind of one of those endings where I'm like, okay,
For me, the ending was it felt very much like a slice of life kind of movie. All this bizarre happenings occurred, and essentially we're back to where we started. In many ways we're not, but in many ways we are.
Yeah. Is there anything you want to bring up before spoilers? Any kind of thoughts beforehand?
I don't recommend this movie to anyone, unless you're Korean and you love eating dogs.
맛있어요.
Which is now what I'm going to think about Korea every time I think about it. Did Bong Joon-ho do the one where there was a monster in like the water?
Yeah, The Host.
The Host. Watch The Host instead.
Well, I would say that if you're a fan of his films and you haven't seen this film, yes, definitely watch the movie. If you don't like foreign film, obviously, and you're triggered by animals being in distress, you're not going to watch this. It's for a very specific crowd. If you love Korean cinema or Asian cinema in general, and you want something kind of out of the box, I would recommend it. But for the vast majority of people, they're not going to be able to probably handle the movie. But I will say, if you are interested and you've seen a trailer and what we've said has interested you, the movie is, at the time of the recording, that is streaming on Hulu. I would admit that I'm not going to watch the movie again.
All right. Spoilers it is, I guess.
Let's get into you called him a janitor. I was wondering if he was a janitor or if he was just a maintenance guy.
Custodian, dick.
Janitor, maintenance guy. In movies, it's basically interchangeable.
Right. So we'll get into the scene, which to me was a nice twist. Our main protagonist realizes that the dog that he thought was the yapping monstrosity, actually, which I thought was pretty hilarious. He sees the Lost Dog poster, and it says that the dog has a certain throat condition.
It just had surgery and it can't bark.
Right. It can't bark because of a throat condition. And so then you're like, oh shit, he's got the wrong dog. And he goes down in the basement, and my first thought is, oh, okay, well, it's been a few days. Maybe the dog is dead. Well, the dog isn't in there. The dog probably would have been alive. And our janitor or maintenance guy who loves to go down in the basement to not only, we learn, cook dogs or chicken, chances are he went down to the basement to cook a chicken, and he heard the dog scratching.
And his lips were watering, and he was smacking his lips, licking them.
And then he said, oh, forget this chicken.
Dog, finger licking good.
Right. Yeah, I thought that was a nice twist. And I did really like the fact that he climbs into the armoire because he sees the janitor. His pager goes off. Then you have that great shot, which is almost like something out of a slasher movie.
Yeah.
We just cut to the waistline and the bloody knife because he's just chopped the head off of this dog. And he's just slowly walking towards the armoire. And at this point, because it's a Korean, because it's Bong Joon-ho, I'm like, okay, anything goes here. Honestly, we could pull a psycho here and just kill this guy right off, and then go to a different protagonist, which could have been really interesting.
Yeah, it could have been.
But no, one of the workers comes down there, and he's like, "Oh, boy, this soup really smells good." We get that scene that is reminiscent of, I can't remember the Edgar Allan Poe.
The Telltale Heart.
Yeah, Telltale Heart, right? Where someone has been basically buried alive.
No. Telltale Heart was the dog in the armoire making noise and stuff. That was the Cask of Amontillado.
Right. You're right. Cask of Amontillado. Yeah. When he's telling that story, I thought this was the first moment where I'm like, okay, this is going to pay off, because he talks about how this guy called Boiler Kim, basically, he uncovered that this company was embezzling money and using cheap parts on this boiler. Someone shoved him, and there was a nail in the wall. He died there, and so they just decided to cement over him and chanting, can't remember what the phrase was. Spinning, right.
What he would say whenever he got a boiler fixed, he'd say, "It's spinning."
And I thought that was a really interesting setup. To me, I was like, okay, clearly this is going to pay off. Clearly someone is going to die similarly, pushed into a nail or something. The boiler is going to come into the plot. Ultimately, this is meaningless.
Well, you say that, but what about the homeless guy living back there who scared our protagonist?
Yeah, but that doesn't really have anything to do with Boiler Kim.
Yeah, he was so scared because he thought it was Boiler Kim.
Yeah, but it really doesn't mean anything. It doesn't really tie into it. It's just, yeah.
You could find some humor in there, like you could set up this big bad boogeyman. Oh, it's just some homeless guy who's been living in the basement for a couple years, who also likes eating dogs.
Well, he likes eating anything. He doesn't want to starve to death.
Let me retrace back to the end when our detective girl, she rescues our protagonist's lost dog, finds him on the roof about to be eaten by this homeless man. Was he going to just shove the rebar up the dog's ass?
Oh, yeah, that's what I wrote down. He was going to shish kebab the dog.
Okay.
Going to get a little shish kebab going. That was also a very uncomfortable scene. I could see that being very upsetting for people because there's a fake out where you think, oh, this rebar just went through the dog. And I'm like, oh, God, because she's holding it. At first, I was like, oh, wait, is this guy blind? He's seeing her. And I'm like, oh, wait, is he seeing her? Is he blind?
And he's not doing anything. And then it turns out he just thinks she also wants to get down on the dog.
Right, yes. It's clear that he has a severe mental problem. He's very mentally unwell. And since we talked about the ending, I guess we can get into it, is that just everybody gets away with everything.
Oh, except for the homeless guy. Homeless guy goes to prison, but he wanted to go to prison anyways.
Yeah, because he says that way I can eat pork, I can eat chicken, but they even say that there's going to be a psych eval, so he's probably going to go to maybe a mental institution. So was that best for him? Probably. Main hero becomes a professor. The janitor guy, which was my biggest disappointment, that I was hoping that he would really be involved into the movie and it would get really crazy with him, but he just kind of disappears. The girl who had a job, she loses her job, and that's just kind of.
She just goes to walk through the forest with her possible girlfriend.
Right.
She likes him thick. What can I say? There's one thing about like everybody ends up better. Like, in order to end up better, he had to bribe somebody. You know what I mean? So it's kind of incongruent. Yeah, we do feel more sympathy for him because of his bitch wife, but I mean, he's bribing people in order to get a position, which he probably is qualified for.
Right. And then they speak, which was a funny moment early on when him and his friend are talking about this guy who did bribe them, and he got really drunk because that's kind of the initiation process.
Yeah.
He throws up over the subway platform, just gets his head chopped off. And then they're like, well, actually, that worked out great for you because now the spot open.
At the end, they had a very similar scene where after his initiation, he's standing by the subway. He clearly drunk beyond all words. He's sticking his head over the train, and then did they show the sort of similar shot where you see his glasses go flying or anything, or they just cut away?
No, they cut away. I was kind of wondering about that, but no, they don't kill him off. And I will say it is tough to like the guy because he does throw a dog off the roof.
Yeah, again, you were talking about how we get sympathy for him. Halfway through the movie, he does kill a dog.
He does just chuck this dog off a roof, which not only does it die from impact, but it gets completely impaled by a brain. There is a really funny moment when he's getting the dog and he's like rolling these grapefruits down
I did enjoy that scene.
He just straight up fucking runs and grabs the dog and jumps over the fence.
Yeah, like that athletic thing where you jump over the bar. He jumps over a fence like that. That brought a smile to my face.
That was funny. Also, I did really enjoy, there's a scene when he's like calling all of these people to try to get money for the bribe. The last guy on the list, he's like, oh, so can I get $3,000 from you? And he's like, oh, wait, your kid's in the hospital? And the guy's like, oh, yeah. And he's like, he's in the hospital because he swallowed a battery?
How could he swallow a battery?
Right. It's just the image of this kid swallowing a battery and being in the hospital. I just found it absolutely hysterical.
He loves seeing dogs tortured and kids tortured by batteries. Monster. You mentioned there's not many payoffs. The one main one would be, okay, we're going back to the beginning. The old woman stops him from throwing the dog off the roof. She's drying radishes on the roof. The woman who's drying radishes happens to own the dog who he wants to kill. He does kill it. Our girl detective, she sees it happen. She tries chasing him down. She fails. She runs down to see the dog, finds the old lady looking for it. Oh, ma'am, is this your dog? She like has a heart attack or something and later dies.
Yeah, so that's...
For all her help, what does she get? You could just have my old radishes that are sitting on the roof.
Right, well, that was hilarious because that scene, she basically kills the old lady by showing her the dog. And even her friend says, that probably wasn't a good idea.
Yeah.
You have this moment at the office where everyone's looking. She's like, "Oh, I have this letter for you." And clearly, when you see this letter, you think, "Oh, like this woman was loaded. She had some type of inheritance. She was just cheap, and she lived in this apartment or whatever." And then you know it's just a handwritten letter of, "You can have my radishes on the roof."
Also, she was being fired at that exact moment as well.
Right. Yeah. Nothing works out for the old lady. The granny dies. Also, there's a weird scene where the granny is walking the dog. And she just like jumps in the air like Spider-Man on this like pipe.
It was very bizarre.
Wait, how is this old lady doing that? I was like, wait, is she like?
The heavy set friend, when she runs down to chase see, here's the problem with these Asian movies. I have no idea how to pronounce or remember their names. When the girl detective and her friend see him throw the dog off the roof, one goes to try and stop him, one tries to go and get the binoculars that her friend just broke. The heavyset one leaps over this fence like a goddamn professional, man.
She throws down with the homeless dude.
Yeah. That was okay. That was relatively funny when she's fighting the homeless man.
The movie does have some moments that I did enjoy. Like I said, I wish it went darker. I wish the villain of the movie was the maintenance guy, and I wish a lot more was done with him.
Who was the villain of this movie in your eyes?
Well, honestly, everybody really was the villain. I mean,
Well, except for the girl. She doesn't really, all she does is be,
she killed the granny.
yeah, but she's looking for a dog. Hey, is this your dog? Well, I mean, that's a pretty reasonable response, right?
Showing the old lady the dead dog who has a stick impaled through its body. I don't know if that's bad.
Not the most tactful, let's say.
But I mean, in her defense, she shouldn't even have brought it up anyway, because that was the only reason for the woman to live. That was like her whole will to live. She was alone.
Yeah, but at the same time, she's just going to forever be searching for this dog that's never there.
Well, maybe that's better than dying of a heart attack after seeing your dog impaled.
I suppose so.
And the thing is that the lady she's old and senile. And so when the girl first shows her the dog,
Why is he sleeping there?
right? And you see the fucking giant stick impaled through the dog. It's like, oh no, Granny.
And then our maintenance man agrees to help bury it, but with an ulterior motive. He's finally going to get his mitts on that fine dog meat.
That's the thing, is that dogs are gonna keep disappearing. You know, that he's gonna keep getting that dog.
Yeah, but they never bring that up. Is he kidnapping and killing dogs? Because the first one, okay, he opens a cabinet. Maybe it's dead. Maybe it's alive. Either way, plan on eating it. The second one, dog's already dead. What the hell difference does it make whether it's buried in the ground or buried in his belly?
Buried in his belly. Yeah, let me just desecrate everyone's graves. Yeah, it's a good example about cannibalism, right? You know, when people die, you know, fuck it, just some
Hey,
homeless people.
Do you want to survive? Or do you want to sit on the frills of tradition?
So, in other words, what you're saying is when you pass away, you want your body thrown in Tent City to have the homeless people.
I'll put it
munch
to you
on
like
your
this.
corpse.
On Facebook, when I was on Facebook, I used to be a part of a group. They just essentially would show bunny pictures. I don't know if you know this about Rudy, but Rudy loves a cute little bunny.
Of course he does.
Anyways, I just watched Watership Down like 2 days ago. You watch your fucking tongue. They post a picture of like some Facebook marketplace guy who's selling, you know, rabbit meat, and they're up in arms. We must put a stop to this, flag this, email whoever, this or that. And it's like, I really like bunnies, but if people got to eat, they got to eat. I mean, if you don't eat any meat at all, I can understand you making this post. But if you've ever even had just one chicken wing, you're a fucking hypocrite.
Well, I mean, there are varying degrees. Like, I eat meat, but I don't agree with like baby animals being killed just because you're like, oh, okay, the meat's more tender.
We definitely have to watch Detention next time.
Personally, I do feel sympathy for animals, which is why I choose to only eat baby animals. They have not lived as long, and they are not leaving as much behind.
What about dogs and never biting? How does that affect you?
Well, the movie?
Yes.
the ending it's kind of unsatisfying. I'm just kind of like, okay, well, nobody really got any comeuppance. Innocent people were harmed. Innocent animals were harmed. I don't exactly know what the filmmaker is saying.
Slice of life.
Yeah, I don't really feel like it was a slice of life movie, but I understand what you're saying. It's just, I wish there was more focus on, I mean, there is a plot, but I wish the story went in a different direction. I enjoyed aspects of it. I wouldn't watch it again, but the ending isn't great. But I think there are some decent moments.
There's a couple decent moments. I'm certainly never going to watch this again. In fact, it's pretty much soured me on ever watching one of his films again.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen quite a few of his films. I haven't seen his most recent movie, which swept the Oscars, Parasite, which is also on Hulu.
Do you have any other recommendations for Bong Joon-ho? Because, like I said, I've only seen this and The Host, I believe.
Definitely watch The Host. The Host is also on Hulu, I believe. And that's like a really great monster. And funny as well. That's also a black comedy. That was the movie he made after this. No. It was his third film. I think he's talented. There's a couple movies I haven't really cared for, like Mother and
also on Hulu.
And Snowpiercer, which I probably need to rewatch, but I didn't love that movie. And I have heard from many people that his second film, Memories of Murder, is like one of the best serial killer movies like ever made. I mean, Parasite swept the Oscars and it's on Hulu, so
it's at least got to have something to it.
Right.
Now,
yeah.
I realize the Oscars are a morally bankrupt group of pieces of shit.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
It's got to be at least be somewhat good.
To me, there's got to be something there. I've been waiting because the hype has been so insane that I've just like, all right, I need to.
You got to detach yourself.
Yeah, I just need to give this some time to breathe. There's just been too many extremes with talking about the movie now. It's a lot of hyperbole.
Well, according to the world, the Black Panther is the greatest movie ever made, and I have zero desire to ever watch that.
Yeah, especially now that Chadwick Boseman has passed away.
Yeah, he died. How did he die?
He had, I believe, colon cancer.
Oh, okay. Well, that sucks. Again, all right, that was Barking Dogs Never Bite. One of us thought it was at least worth a watch. One of us thinks it should be dropped into a pit of acid.
For a very select group of people to watch this.
Fair enough. All right, Rudy Landers. This is the time when I ingest the weed brownie somebody gave me last night. Arrivederci.